why folks want to learn correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar. Well, from 8 years of doing this, I would say it's the same reason that I wanted to learn it. And that was to be able to safeguard myself and my biosphere from trespass, bureaucratic trespass of the fiction system. What do we mean by fiction system? Well, what I mean by fiction system is I mean the legal system and everything that comes with it. Meaning the court system, the police system, the military system, government system, all those things, the state system, everything, the church, everything that's connected in through tentacles of this monstrosity. That's my perception of the fiction system. And my idea to talk about was the government. Anybody out there who is an employee of a government, the government, a state employee, federal employee, whether you're police, CPS, a teacher, EMS, public safety, whatever you are, there is corruption in your department. I'm telling you that. I don't usually like to make presumptions like that, but that's not an presumption. It may appear that I'm making that, but it's not. I have enough experience in my almost 53 years on this earth with government vassalees and folks who have worked with government or in government to know that it doesn't matter where you are. If you are in New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, or how many minutes have I been streaming? 7? I guess I can say this now. Or whether you're in bumfucked Egypt. Whatever department you're working for, it has corruption in it. I can prove this. If you are an employee of the government. Now you may say, okay, well, and I'm also fond of saying this, if you are, for example, a police officer, there is corruption in your department. There is. You are working with corrupt people. Not all of them are corrupt, but let's give closure to what corruption is, folks. What is corruption? Is it when you yourself are participating with corruption? Meaning you're going against your morals and values and the rules of the organization, you're working for? Meaning when you make, if you're a police officer and you make a drug bust and you find someone that has, $5,000 cash on them and you report 3 and keep 2 for yourself, that's corruption? Okay. What about your partner? Your partner doesn't agree with what you're doing, but they don't say anything. Is that corruption? Are they being corrupt? Well, yeah, they are. If you're turning a blind eye to something like that in the parameters of what you're doing in your job and the supposed high values of your position, then yeah, that's corrupt. So that's what I'm saying. In every government department, doesn't matter who you are, politician, whatever, there's corruption. You know it. You see it. Either you're participating with it directly or you're turning a blind eye to it, which means you're also facilitating it. It does not matter. It's corrupt. That is why. And you can put this towards anything, really, pretty much any group. Now, I can't say all groups, but most groups are corrupt. There is some corruption in them. For whatever reason, this is just the way things are. That's why they say keep your circle small. Government equals a false claim of ownership. Well, what is a claim of ownership? And what is the government claiming to own if government is we the people? Let's define what government is. What is government? To govern the mind. M-E-N-T means mind. Govern. So there you go. How is it a false claim? And how can anyone own anything? Ownership to me, from where I sit, is ridiculous to begin with. I don't own anything. Nothing. I'm a steward of things. Like, for example, this vessel you see, this face, this body, these hands, all that stuff. It's not mine. I don't consider this to be my body because I didn't create it. I'm a steward of it, though. But it's not mine. So keep this in mind. If you don't own anything, nothing can be taken from you. That is a psychological conditioned state that very few people are, well, but very few people possess the capacity to participate with and fully cognize. If you don't own anything, and in your mind you really participate with that position that you don't own anything, nothing can be taken from you. You can be a steward of it. For example, your children. Like I just said it, like my children, as if I own another human being. No, that's reprehensible. That's repugnant to think you own another human being. No, 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 no. I'm a steward of them. You see the difference? It's a subtle psychological difference. My brother's partner sometimes speaks in correct sentence structure. Now that she has noticed I am aware of that, she has accelerated the intensity in all sentences where I can hear. My partner's my brother's partner sometimes speak. Musical Armageddon, I find that very interesting because correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar is a grammar on paper. It's not meant to be spoken. You can speak it and it sounds fancy or whatever, but there's no way to use it really verbally with the correctness, the mathematical interface that is used on paper. And if you ever decide to learn it, get closure on that grammar, you'll see why. It's a written grammar. It's not, so it shall be, so it is written, so it shall be done, this type of thing. It's not meant to be spoken. I mean, you can speak it, and I can speak it too. But what's the point? Because no one's going to freaking understand it anyways. Isn't the volition to be cognized? Isn't it our volition between one another, the meeting of the minds to be understood, to be cognized, to be comprehended? Then why wouldn't you use the simplest way to do that? The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So let's be straight with one another. Correct together with the straight path. You see what I'm saying? So correct sentence structure is not meant to be spoken like that and have the same impact. The weight that it holds and the potency it holds is on paper. Very important to cognize that. Labor, rights. Jared, from my position, there's no such thing as rights. A chicken has a right to eat and a fox has a right to eat. That's enough to say about rights. Rights are given by an authority. So if you participate with the concept of rights, that means that you also participate with giving authority to someone else other than yourself. So for me, rights are bullshit. I don't participate with rights. I do participate with lefts, though. No, I'm kidding. I must at least own my own jurisdiction, surely. Hey, I mean, musical Armageddon, you do whatever you want to do. That's your choice as to whether you want to participate with the concept of ownership or not. But me, I don't own anything. I can take jurisdiction, I can take authority over jurisdiction if I authorize the jurisdiction, being the author of my own document, contract, postal vessel, court venues on paper. I'll take jurisdiction over that. If there's a physical situation on the street where I'm being attacked or being trespassed upon in a physical manner, I will take jurisdiction over that, meaning I'll take authority over that and do what needs to be done to protect myself, public safety. But I'm not owning it. I don't possess it. You see what I'm saying? I'm a steward of it. I'm a steward of the aegis of the vessel. It's a very subtle psychological difference, and it's hard in this materialistic, capitalistic society to get past the concept of ownership. And I'm not asking anybody to do that. I'm just telling you what I do and what's worked for me. That's all. What else we got here? All rights are derivative of self-ownership. Only a Sith speaks in absolutes. I am in command and control of my vessel. I own my vessel. The proof of that is that my consciousness resides and is in command and control of the vessel. Did you create your consciousness, J.A. Richardson? J.A. Richardson? I'm not quite sure I understand your username there. But did you create your consciousness? Are you the creator of that? Do you have proof of that? Do you have proof that you created yourself? What else okay. See this pen? I can prove this pen. I didn't create this pen, but I can prove it exists. Do the same for your consciousness, and then also continue to the evidence that you created it, because if you didn't, then how can you claim ownership of it? See what I'm saying? You may be in command and control your vessel, but if you use the word control, Jared, see, command together with the mandate, I can understand that. But control, first of all, you have a particle of negation, contra, which means no contract. But control implies that you are making something do something against its will. To control it. It implies the use of force. And if you look back through my videos, I've done several videos on that particular concept. So I don't participate with that word at all because I'm peaceful and neutral. I don't want to force anything, including this, to do anything against its will. I'm a steward of it. I don't own it. I don't control it. I go with the flow, like Bruce Lee said. Try to be like water. But I mean, you do you, J.A. Richardson. You do whatever floats your boat and helps you to sleep at night. I'm just sharing with you what I do and what's been successful for me in the past 8 years of teaching and using correct sentence structure, communication, PARSE, syntax, grammar. Now, I get a lot of emails and I do a lot of workshops with lots and lots and lots of people. So I don't know if you've done a workshop with me or not, but I can definitely tell that you don't have closure on the grammar because of your lack of grasp of these concepts, which is something that you would come to if you've done probably 5 or 6 workshops with me. These things, like the 3 principles that I teach, the balance of the honor and the grace, the position of peace and neutrality, the maintenance of rule 1, rule equal. These things would permeate your psyche, and then you would see what I'm talking about when it comes to control and possession and ownership, and how these concepts, by my viewpoint, belong in the fiction, because I don't want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of something different, separate from the fiction, which I am. I have separated myself. But if those of you that want to participate with those types of concepts, that's your choice, because contract is by consent. There is no argument when facts are facts. Thank you for your comments on ownership, stewardship, and jurisdiction. You're very welcome, Musical Armageddon. I appreciate you being here and asking questions. So to get back to what I was saying about government and corruption, there's corruption in every department. If you have a group of people, somewhere in there is going to be corruption. Now, whether that corruption is allowed or permitted to poison the whole, that's another thing entirely. But you're always going to have a couple bad apples in there, right? What's the saying? Don't let one bad apple spoil the whole bunch, right? It's just what happens. And what happens in, I think, from my perception, and also knowing personally many government employees, boss leads, however you want to say them, getting to know them, because I do participate with the balance of honor and grace, position of peace and neutrality, maintenance of rule one, rule equal. I don't have enemies. At least I don't perceive them as enemies. They may perceive me that way, but I don't perceive them that way. Someone is like a police officer or a clerk or an attorney. I know they're part of a corrupt system. And deep down, they know it too. They know it too. But they're doing the best they can with what they have. It's like the attorney that's a member of the bar association. Now, they may be a little ignorant to certain things, but they know their job. And they also know that there are other attorneys that are corrupt as hell. They've seen judges give corrupt judges' opinions based upon whether someone pissed them off that day or not. That's just one example. Way back in 2017, when I first started communicating with DAVID-WYNN Miller, he told me in a phone conversation, he said, I'm sure you have a district court within 12 miles of where you live. Just go down there and sit in and observe. Just watch how everyone behaves, and you'll start to see patterns. And he was 100% correct. I went down to the 42nd District Court, which is basically 3 minutes away from where I live, and I sat in there for hours, bro. Hours. I was in there so often that the judge actually called me out during a case. I was sitting as far back in the farthest corner you could sit in the Goyim section, or I'm sorry, not the Goyim section, in the peasant section. I'm sorry, not the peasant section, in the public section of the courtroom, you know, where the pews, where benches, where the regular folks watch, not the well of the court, but the audience section. I was sitting there watching, and he was asking, because it was I think it was a domestic violence case, and the courtroom was full. And he was asking the court, everyone who was in the court, in the Goyim section. I keep saying that. Why do I keep saying that? In the normal people section, in the audience section, are you part of this case? Are you part of this case? Are you part of this case? Because he was looking, he wanted to ask somebody a question. Then he saw me in the back, and he's like, hey, you. EWE, right? I don't know. Are you part of this case? And I said, no, sir. I'm just observing for educational purposes. And that judge, in his black dress, went like this. Like he got up and then he went, I hope you enjoy. And he sat back down and went on with what he was doing. And this judge, ladies and gentlemen, like many judges that I've witnessed, was an asshole. Okay? He was so condescending to everyone that came in front of him, that went in front of him. Hey, yo, those things sound kind of weird. Everyone that was pleading and begging in front of him. He was very rude to them, very sarcastic. And that just grinds my gears. But I was observing, impartially. And I got to see, wow, this place is just totally corrupt. Watching the bailiffs and the sheriffs, what they were talking about, I could hear them, talking beside me about just, I mean, you think it's one thing, or you maybe want to believe that it's one thing, but it's not. There is no justice in the justice system. If it happens arbitrarily. Okay? On your response on my previous question regarding my brother's partner supposedly talking in correct sentence structure, all you say makes sense, in particular correct sentence structure, together with the continued. I will wait for your continuation with bated breath. For this claimant's knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the weight, with the continuation of the comment, with the writ of the musical Armageddon, with the perception by this claimant, full stop. See, I just spoke in correct sentence structure. But you see why it's not really correct sentence structure? Because you can't see what's being spelled out on the paper. You don't know where the particles of negation are. You probably don't remember if I doubled up on the positionals, if I used the correct concatenation. How would you know that? Unless you have a photographic imprinting memory, especially when someone speaks a long sentence like that. Now, I know it was positioned, the sequencing was correct because I consciously, in my mind, as I was creating that sentence, made sure of that. But even then, to err is human. Everybody makes mistakes, including myself. I'm no exception to that. Together with the straight path aligns with my previous understanding of it as one word, one meaning. Well, I mean, that's not what correct means. I mean, one word, one meaning would be correct in the context of correct sentence structure, but correct just means together along the same straight path. Meaning if you and I are correct, that means we have a contract and we're using the same principles. But if we're not, then we're not correct in that context. Now, as one word, one meaning, that goes with the principle of correct sentence structure. One and one is one. One word, one meaning, one congruency, one function, so on and so forth. I think that's a little different than what you're referring to there. I'm referring to the antithesis of correct sentence structure in terms of the way my brother's partner uses language. One word, many meanings, depending upon the understanding of each listener. Well, that's fiction. That's adverb, verb, adjective, pronoun, fiction, babble. That would mean that their words have definitions. DE, which means no. FINITE, finite, which means limit. And an ION, which means contract. Definition, no finite contract. That's why there's multiple meanings for words in fiction dictionaries. In a correct sentence structure, communication, PARSE, syntax, grammar dictionary, it would be one word, one meaning. So yeah, maybe you're not speaking about correct sentence structure. Maybe they're not using correct sentence structure. If they're not using the format of like for the facts, of the facts, are, with the facts, of the facts, with the facts, by the facts, period. All right, so to return to the topic of corruption, that's mostly the reason why folks want to learn this grammar, is to stop that type of trespass, to get the corruption out of their personal lives and out of their mailboxes and things like that, and out of their pocketbooks. That's usually when it comes down to is money. When the fiction starts coming for material things, such as houses, children, your bank account, That's when people want to learn it. The funny thing about that is when you are in the middle of something, when you're being pressured by the fiction system or threatened, that's probably the most challenging time to learn correct sentence structure, because learning this stuff under pressure is very, very hard. So it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So if you're going to learn this, it's better to do it sooner than later. It's better to do it right now in the now space, right? When's a better time? Now space. Right now. Now is the best time. Contact me, jasonmatthewg17@gmail.com, and apply for a workshop and get the ball rolling. Some folks are very motivated and they'll do 2 workshops in a week and they'll have it learned within a month. Other folks, have different priorities. They'll do 1 workshop every week or 1 workshop a month. Some folks will sign up for a workshop and then won't show up because whatever reason, it's just very strange. The best way I can put it is, if you're meant to do it, if you're ready, the stars will align and you'll make it a priority and be here and learn it. But if you're not ready and you're not serious, you won't. The stars will align to prevent you from doing that. Actually, that's a nice way of saying that you're preventing yourself from learning it, because contract is by consent. Yes, yep. She definitely ain't talking in 567, 5672, 567, 567 sequence. So I guess I gotta call her out on her excessive use of plain English fiction babble. Well, musical Armageddon, why do you gotta do that? Is her use of whatever language she's using or grammar she's using, is that damaging you in some way? Is it hurting you? If so, what is the damage? And I'm not trying to pick on you at all. I'm bringing more concepts into this discussion, because there are folks out there that feel like they need to go and correct everybody. Why? The only time a stop and correct happens is when there's damage being done. Like if I'm being threatened physically by someone, I will stop them. I can't really correct them. That's up to them to do that themselves, but I can definitely stop them. You see what I'm saying? If an interloper comes through my my mailbox and is trying to rip me off for something, I can stop that because it's creating potential harm, potential damage, and it's a trespass. I can't make them correct. That's up to them to correct. But if someone's okay, this is going to be probably a little edgy example. But if I come to a part of the area I live in, and I live in the past tense United States, I live in North America, outside of Detroit, Michigan. If I come up to a couple people and, for example, they're speaking Norwegian, okay, they're speaking Norwegian, I don't come up to them and say, hey, speak American. Why would I do that? Anybody can speak anything they want to. Now, if they're speaking to me and they're speaking Norwegian, now I can say, look, we got to figure something out here, because if you're trying to communicate with me, you got to speak in a language or a grammar that I can cognize so that we can contract. So you either better get an interpreter, or you better be able to interpret your Norwegian into plain simple English or Spanglish. or a smattering of Russian, languages that I know, or speaking correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar. I mean, those are the specifications of contracting. You have to establish knowledge. Those are judge mechanics. So that's the only time. So I guess if your brother's partner is speaking to you in a way that you don't understand, well, yeah, then I can see you saying, hey, yo, 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 chill. Dumb it down for me. Speak plain, simple English. Por favor. I used to go out to, when I was first learning this in 2017, I used to go out to like grocery stores and things like that. And I used to speak using correct sentence structure to the cashiers and things like that. Looking back in hindsight, what a goofy thing to do. Why would I do that? That would be like, as I said, going into an English-speaking grocery store and speaking Norwegian to them. What is the point of that? That's why I find it hilarious when you get people from, for example, Russell J. Gould's group or the Jason Paul Grievous group, where when they start getting pressed about something, they'll say, well, you don't even know how to speak correct grammar, blah, blah, blah. What do you mean speak correct grammar? Correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar is a written grammar. Or they might say, you don't know how to read and write. Well, that's not true. That is not true. Anybody who went to school and reached 8th grade knows how to read and write. They may not know how to read and write correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar, but guess what? Through public evidence, continuance of the evidence available to the public, neither Russell J. Gould nor Jason Paul Grievous know how to read and write in correct grammar. At least they have no examples of it in the public. Maybe they do it behind closed doors. But then that scenario in and of itself is kind of sus too, right? Which brings me back to the corruption. Both of those people, Russell-J. Gould and Jason-Paul Grievous, both claim this title, Commander in Chief. What type of mentality must one have to claim that title? Think about it. What kind of individual wants to be chief of other people and hold power over other people and have people call them chief? And that's a title they bestow upon themselves. What kind of ego does that take? Now, I've said this many, many times over the last 8 years. It is not my volition to be any type of leader. If anyone looks at me that way or ascribes that type of title to me, that's their perception. And they're more than welcome to do that. But that's not my position. I'm a tutor. That's it. I can help guide you to closure on correct sentence structure. I'm a guide, but I'm not a leader. Just like when someone tells you, oh, I'm nice, I'm kind, I'm loving, I'm humble. If someone's telling you all those things, it probably means that they're not qualified to say that, and they're the opposite of those things. Just like when a tough guy says, I'm tough, I fight UFC. That tells me right away they probably don't know how to fight their way out of a wet paper bag. All right? Things like humility, those are titles and perceptions that are bestowed upon you by other people who observe you. They observe your behavior and they say, yeah, I can see that person's humble. Like when I observe Russell J. Gould in his videos, I don't see any humility at all. Quite the opposite. Same thing for the other guy. There is no humility there. I can't think of one past tense United States pre-simulated denture, i.e. president, that has been humble, including the one we have now, is definitely nowhere. There is no humility That's why it's a joke to me. It's a complete joke. It doesn't matter who's up there. It's a complete comedy show, freak show to me. You may have a different perception of that. But again, things like humility and kindness, those things can be cultivated. But for me, it's up to other people to conclude that or not about me or anyone else. So someone that claims the title of Commander-in-Chief, if people didn't vote that in for them and everybody didn't consent to that, then that's pretty much someone blowing smoke up their own butt. B-U-T-T. And that tells me all I need to know about anyone who claims bullshit like that. Because then we come down to the continuance of the evidence. What proof is there that someone is commander-in-chief? Are they able to direct the military to do things? Are they able to affect any type of positive results in a country's day-to-day life? No. The only effect that they have is in the minds of their followers who believe them. Out here in the place where no one's ever heard of the name Russell J. Gould, there's no effect at all. Now, on the other hand, if you look at someone like Donald J. Trump, whether you know about him or not, what he's doing does affect you because he does have power to change, modify things on a massive level. So there you go. But then again, contract is by consent. So always keep that in mind. And volition is also the most important thing in any contract. And corruption is rampant in just about every group or community that you can find. That's why you won't ever see me as a member of any type of community. At least no large community. I do have a small circle of friends in this correct sentence structure domain. I do have, I want to say, about 12.5 students who have enough closure on this grammar to be able to actually use it in a foreign vessel and dry dock, to be able to use it out in the world, on Earth, navigating from point A to point B. And about 5 of those 12.5 people I am close to and maintain very strong trust accounts with. And that's it, besides my family. And actually, a very small percentage of my family are confidants. I treat the rest at arm's length. I would be negligent if I didn't say this. If you do find value in what I conveyed here today, feel free to send a super chat or a super sticker, some sort of donation or gift through YouTube, or you can go to my Buy Me a Coffee website, which you can find a link to that in the description of this video, where you can send me a coffee. I think a coffee is like $5. You can donate that way, or you can send as many coffees as you like. Of course, it's not necessary, but I do appreciate it. It helps me to keep doing what I'm doing. I've been saying this for 8 years, folks. When you write me an email, I don't care if you're writing in plain, simple English, what you're writing in. I mean, as long as I can understand it, right? Hi, Jason. I'm interested in applying for workshops. Thank you. And then at the bottom, put your full correct name. Jared Richardson. If your name is Musical Armageddon, If you popped out of your mama at the hospital, at the Foundling Hospital, and she said, oh, let's name this baby Musical Armageddon, then just put Musical Armageddon. So rule one, rule equal. You know my full correct name. You know what I look like. I just asked the same consideration of you. Rule one, rule equal. That's all. And it's confidential, by the way. So I won't be sharing your real name with anybody, your correct name with anybody. It's just between you and me. It's between you and me and the watchers on the internet. Musical Armageddon. It doesn't matter what email account you use, as long as you put your correct name at the bottom, meaning whatever name you go by, your first, middle, last name, if you have that, or a first and last name, or if you just go by one name. I mean, that's up to you. See, the certificate of live birth that I have has the name Jason Matthew Glass, but that's an amended name because I wasn't born that. In actuality, the last name was different. I was adopted. When I created my live life claim, my claim of the live life, I could have used a different name if I wanted to. All right, I could have said :Jason-Matthew : turtle, period, for example, if I wanted to. And then that would be the name that folks would have to contract with me. Using that name, because I'm the authority of that name, I authored it, I came up with it on the live life claim. But because I know, for the easy communication, because you'll find that I'm all about easy communication. I'm here to be understood, not misunderstood. I'm not trying to confuse anyone. I want you to know what I'm saying. I try to be as straightforward as possible, 100%. So that's why I used the name that was on the certificate of live birth. I took those 3 words, adjective, adjective, pronoun, Jason Matthew Glass, and I punctuated them. :Jason-Matthew : Glass, period. Upper, lowercase. First letter of each fact is uppercase and then followed by lowercase, which in quantum grammar shows that you are a living, breathing creature. If you all cap a name like that, that means you are no longer breathing. Okay? This is in the context of quantum grammar, correct sentence structure, communication, PARSE, syntax, grammar. So now, since I punctuated that name and copyright copy claimed that name, I am the authority of that name. I have authored it. I'm not the author of the all caps adjective, adjective, pronoun, Jason Matthew Glass, although I do tow it as a salvage. And I have a salvage claim on it, which is valid. Do you get what I'm saying? Anyways, so just for sake of clarity, if you're going to email me, at the bottom of the email, maybe put your live birth name on there. That's from a birth certificate or certificate of live birth, whatever that name is. And I will accept that as equal, so I know who you are. Or as other folks say, your legal name, like the name you use on Facebook or the name you use when you sign a document. When you use a credit or debit card at a restaurant or something and you put a name on that paper, that's the name you would just basically put at the bottom of your email. That's what I mean. It's not hard, but some folks just make it hard, I guess, for themselves. It's not about playing games, folks. It's about being straightforward. For me, I'm not trying to speak for you. For me, it's about being straightforward. So thanks for participating, and see you next month.